Welcome. This is the School District of Prescott's Board of Education regular meeting. I will call the meeting to order, subject Section 1983 Wisconsin statutes. Our first item is to adopt the agenda, and we do have some changes.
Yeah, the administration would like to recommend in information and discussion. Both of these adjustments were duly noted, so it's not changing that it wasn't noted by the community, but for flow, we would like to take info and discussion items B and E and put them into item B. It'll make sense with regards to kind of the process of funding and things. And then the other one is to take information, discussion, letters C and F into one presentation for Michael Kozmowski. Otherwise, there are no other adjustments from the administration.
All right. If everybody gets that, we can take a motion.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented with the two changes to the info and discussion sections.
A second. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries, and we're going to go Pledge of Allegiance. Helen, would you care to lead us?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have, next up is the recognition of visitors or public comment. Rules are always as follows. Please approach the podium one at a time, stating your name, municipality, and topic you'd like to address. Allotted time is 3 minutes per individual or 6 minutes if you are representing a group that is present at the meeting. All comments should be directed to the board and not to other staff or other participants. The board will not act on any comments that are made during the meeting, and the presiding officer may direct the district administrator to follow up with that individual at a later date. And finally, the public comment section will be limited to 30 minutes unless board action is taken to extend. So at this time, is there anybody that would like to be recognized at this time? All right, we'll move on. Thank you. Item 5, good news.
Yes, our student representative is not here, but Mr. Igo is going to represent the administrative team.
Coach Smith.
Oh, Coach Smith is taking in, all right, with Sarah. And then we have a special guest.
All right, kicking it off. A couple things on the activities side. Our dance team, double state champions for both jazz and palm. That was in lacrosse a few weekends ago, so awesome job to everyone there involved, coaches, dancers, everyone in between. Very well deserved the work that they put in there. Our PHS a cappella group, St. Croix Sound, they had the honor, they were invited to attend the ICHSA, the International Championship of High School A Cappella. Probably the most prestigious competition that we know of, talking with Ms. Camerath about it. And that was in Oak Creek last weekend, and they went down and did an outstanding job representing us. There was teams from Chicago, Milwaukee, all over the Midwest that we were competing against. And then lastly, we had 3 girl wrestlers advance to sectionals. That'll be this Friday at Eau Claire North. So congratulations and best of luck to Addie Alsop, Charlotte Kellogg, and Savannah Whiting as they go to try to advance to state this Friday. Thank you very much.
Matt.
Principal Tuesday.
And I am here to introduce Sarah Parkos and Cindy Fleming from Afton Apple. They, every year around this time, always come to the school board meeting. They're good stewards of our school district, and they always do a presentation, usually at this school board meeting, so I'm going to introduce them at this time.
Hi, I'm Sarah with Afton Apple Orchard. I'm here with my mom, Cindy, and my daughter, Mackenzie. Thanks for inviting us to the school board meeting tonight. The teachers and staff in the Prescott School District are truly remarkable. For example, last year we supported Prescott Intermediate's One Book, One School program by providing a copy of the book A Week in the Woods for each student and funding immersive activities. As a mystery reader, I saw firsthand how the entire school encompassed the experience. Students read in groups, teachers read aloud, and even administrative staff joined in. Beyond reading, students engaged in hands-on projects, listened to guest speakers, and adventured on a memorable field trip to Kinnickinnick State Park, where they played games, created nature art, and roasted s'mores, many for the first time. Supporting this program was incredibly rewarding, and with funding to last through next year, we're excited to see what's next. In our line of work, we wouldn't be where we are today without thinking outside the box and stepping beyond our comfort zone. It's how we've transformed a combine into a playground, developed a fantastic tour program, and extended our seasons to harvest produce throughout the summer and fall. The world needs more creative thinkers, and we must recognize that not all success, achievement, or progress can be measured in tangible ways. We're proud to support initiatives that offer alternative approaches to learning and encourage out-of-the-box thinking. It's like the popcorn analogy. Popcorn is made in the same pot with the same heat, with the same oil, but the kernels don't pop all at once. Came across a great quote that says, "Comparison is the thief of joy." We've witnessed firsthand how the positive impact of flexible seating has been, particularly with our younger students. Last year, we helped provide whiteboards and supplies for the intermediate school to help transform their classrooms into building thinking classrooms. Studies have shown that movable vertical whiteboards can promote a more conducive environment for group collaboration with longer and deeper thinking. The teachers have put their new equipment to great use and shared very positive feedback on how these tools have enhanced their teaching. The elementary school has been resourceful in creating classrooms with the items they have available, but classrooms haven't been completely outfitted with whiteboards. We were told by many staff that transforming their classrooms is one of their top priorities. Recognizing the value of supporting local, we strive to conduct as much of our business within the community as possible. We have our meals for our crew catered locally, purchase most of our farm equipment from nearby dealers, and work with local graphic design shops for our materials. We've partnered with the Prescott School District to provide fresh apples for the nutrition department. Additionally, we've donated fresh produce and funds to the Hastings Food Shelf and the Prescott Food Pantry. This winter, we've contributed funds to support students at St. Joe's and continue to sponsor various local nonprofits and initiatives whenever we can. As I mentioned before, investing in future generations is much like farming. Some investments show immediate results while others require time and nurturing before you see the payoff. As Benjamin Franklin said, an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. We're thrilled again to once offer 2 scholarships to graduating seniors this spring. The middle school is planning a Courage Retreat coming up in March for the 7th and 8th graders. We are sponsoring the program and have already submitted the payment of $3,745 so they could secure that date. This year, we would also like to support the elementary school with funding to finish furnishing their classrooms into building thinking classrooms with a donation of $3,500. We would also like to top off the Angel Fund with another $5,000. Our donation in total to the school this year is $12,245. Tonight we'd like to donate the remainder of this year's donation in the amount of $8,500. And through the past 8 years of fundraising efforts for the Prescott schools alone, we have been able to donate over $75,000 to support the students at Prescott.
Awesome.
We encourage you to take the road less traveled and embrace the journey ahead. Be kind, enjoy the little things, and get involved in the community. Never forget that even the smallest gestures can leave a lasting impact. As Maya Angelou said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Thank you, Prescott, for your continued support over the years. We're so grateful to be the farm where memories are made.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do, but also for your engagement with our parent group as well. So you definitely have tentacles in many areas, so thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And for Superintendent, quick update, I just wanted to thank our parents for their patience and also for allowing the kids back and having them bundled up. It was really good to see the buildings with students back in. I know it can be difficult with distance learning, and hopefully the Mother Nature releases the grasp on our thermometers and we can see warmer days ahead. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Rick. We're going to move on to school business. First item is the consent agenda, and we have a lot of stuff in the consent agenda. I'm going to try not to screw it up. First one is we have the January 15th, 2025 regular board meeting minutes, finance reports, Personnel report for non-licensed staff. 8th grade trip to Washington DC for 2026.
And Mike, I just wanted to kind of just interject. The reason that this one's in consent is it's an overnight trip, but it's one that we've repeated, and so the board has asked us to put those into consent.
Yep. Thank you. The next one is consider YMCA renewal of school age care. And I know there were some changes to the contract, some word changes down on item number 4 in the contract there. Hopefully folks got to see that. The next one is Bridging Brighter Smiles MOU.
And
That's a dental program, yeah. the ongoing-
Exactly.
Yep.
And that's an annual program that we've been very beneficial, and recently Prescott Foundation assisted with some funding, so appreciate that collaboration as well.
And then we
This
have.
one's unique, so I wanted to make sure before you read them all off. I'll put up we're about to adopt many technical changes from Neola. And so rather than have to list through all of them, they were duly noted. I'll put up the spreadsheet, and then obviously as you go through, there's technical changes, and then there's tier 1 where the board has the opportunity to make or pull any of them out for discussion. And so I wanted to make sure that that occurred, but also be able to share all of the policies that you are reviewing. I think there are 51? Yes, 51 in consent tonight.
So the item that's in consent technically is accept Neola School Board technical updates and changes for the following board policies, version 34.1 per district administrator's responsibility. And we have documents that we review, policies 1 through 19, fall directly into technical changes for consent. And then policies 20 through 51 are straightforward without substantial changes.
Mike, I do have a couple of policies
Okay.
that I'd recommend we pull out of
Yep,
consent.
so that's my first question. Is there anything that the board would like to pull out? It sounds like maybe we do.
Yeah.
Yes.
So go ahead, Pat, you start.
Yeah, I had policy 1130, 3230, and 4230, all of them related to each other.
Okay. So line 34, 1130, ethics and conflict of interest. And line 42, 3230, ethics and conflict of interest.
And then one more, 44.
Oh, I see what you're saying. On that sheet, I'm looking on the agenda. So on the agenda, it was line 20, it was number 27. I'm sorry, I'm going to back up. Which ones was it on the?
So it'll be policy number 1130, ethics and conflict of interest.
That's number 21
Correct.
on our agenda. Yep. Okay.
Number 27 on our agenda,
Yep, ethics and conflict of interest, that's policy 3230,
and then 29 on the agenda.
which is policy 4230, conflict of interest?
Yes.
Okay, that's 3 of them. Pat, and Tanya, did you have any?
I would just pull out the fund balance one, just so we can touch base on that. We talked a lot about it.
6235, policy 6235, number 35. And you're good, Tanya?
Yep.
Helen, do you have any? Vicki, do you have any? No. Okay. All right, so we will pull out those 4 policies that we stated. If there's nothing else, I will adopt the consent agenda as presented with those changes. Any objections to those? All right, we're going to adopt, we'll consider that adopted. So now, Rick, let's talk about those. Should we got,
I think we should adopt what we can first.
yep, we adopted the consent, so that's done.
Do you usually motion and second on that?
No.
No, you just do
Okay.
it.
No, I
Okay.
just adopt the consent, and if there's no objections, it's adopted.
Okay.
So we're done with we're done with the consent agenda, item A. Do you want to just consider personnel reports first, and then, let's
that's
just
all right.
stick with the guns here and go with this. Let's roll through these policies quick.
Okay. Give me a second, I'll put them up so that you can see them.
We always go right after consent.
Yeah, it's very. One second.
Which one did you want? 6235, yeah, that one I can't see.
And is it okay, do we want to try to vote these one at a time, or do you want to, should we go through them all first? What's easier?
Maybe one at a time, so.
One
it's
at a
just not
time?
Confusing.
Okay.
Although friendly, I think 1133, the three ethics ones are almost all identical.
Yeah.
But, so I think you could take those as a package. All right, so what I have put up is 1130, it's a copy of the ethics, conflict of interest. Understand, just again, just to orient anybody that's watching, anything in green are new words or language that have been submitted by Neola for review. My understanding is B, just as a comparison, is new language. Each of the board members took 10 and kind of reviewed them and clarified and asked questions, and then we're kind of review those now as a group. So, Pat?
Yeah, and you're right, all three of them are very related, and my biggest comment was around B right here. So, new language of administrative employees shall not directly supervise a relative employed by the district or employed in a position contracted for by the district. And my questions pertain mostly, I recommend this be in the policy, however, specifically maybe coaching and some of what I would consider some of our extracurricular. I think that this would potentially be problematic. I think within the district, and Mr. Smith would probably know better than me, but oftentimes there's a father-son, mother-daughter relationships. There's brothers, sisters. So there's relatives, and so I think this would be a tough one, and we should consider revising some language.
Yeah. And just to be clear, so the way that these are set up, they have a very specific kind of like Dewey Decimal System for libraries. So 1130 specifically pertains to administrators, and then the other ones will be licensed staff, and then the other ones will be support staff. So in this case, it's specific that administrators shall not, professional employees or officers shall not directly supervise a relative by the district or employed in that position. And it completely, if you can wordsmith it, or if it's to the degree possible, that we avoid it, that would be kind of the suggestions. Or in small districts, in small towns, this is really hard, right? So the one question is, from an administrative level, if an administrator, a principal has a spouse, should they be directly reporting to that administrator?
And maybe I should clarify, in reviewing of these three, really, I think my only hesitation is with 4230, which would be, non-administrator and non-licensed staff, I think. So 1130 and 3230 are probably okay, but wanted you guys to be able to chime in on that.
And I'll bring up 4230. So this one, support staff, right? So administrative, the other one will be licensed staff and then support staff. So this one is specific about support staff, and it also does talk about supervise a relative that's employed by the district. You can see that in the arts, you can see it in PCR, you can see it in sports. And so one of the questions would be, do you want to try to adjust the language on this or strike it?
And so before we even start here too, is we do, I know in the district we have, so I don't know what coaches, and we'll just use coaches, we'll stick with coaches, there's probably some other examples, but we have coaches that are also licensed staff. So is that a problem, or as a coach now, are they don't know, would they fall under a support staff or not? So maybe another layer.
Do coaches have direct reports, though?
Assistant coaches,
But do they actually report to the coach?
I mean, good question. I would assume so. They should.
So I'd ask the AD.
Assistant coaches report directly to head coaches?
Yeah, that'd be their directives.
Okay,
And they do get evaluated at the end of the season?
okay.
Right? Okay.
It looks different for different programs.
So really, maybe, maybe we need to define which policy coaches fall under. I don't know if we have, right now in the district, coaches might be our only example of a conflict here.
I'm trying to separate if maybe there's like a licensed staff versus a non-licensed staff, because I'm thinking like teacher aides or something. There's
What about like lunch
possibilities.
service? If you
Right,
have,
lunch service, there's family
you know,
stuff.
there's,
So what if we separated it licensed staff? Does that, or is that still too, not cover enough maybe?
So is what you're saying, we should take 1130 and 3230,
Can they report to someone?
which are administrators and licensed staff, and the intent would be to avoid them supervising other licensed staff.
That they're related to?
Yep, and then
directly.
4230, which is support staff employees, we could potentially just strike this language.
yeah,
I think it's going to be hard. I mean, there's a lot of family that works within
right.
the
That's
district.
what I'd be worried about, is we'd be possibly losing or preventing potential hires because of this policy change.
The alternative is that maybe they direct report to somebody other than like the principal or
Well,
something.
that's
Maybe
what I'm
it's-
wondering, if we can phrase it,
Right.
if possible, report to someone else, or...
Right, like human resources or whoever
Versus-
might be the other appropriate.
Yeah.
But that might get tricky because that's unique for a lot of people then.
Rick, is it,
So up here, so kind of trying to gather, this is policy 3230. If you want to try to do it here, or we could come back in March 12th.
I think we should come back and you kind of understand what we're talking about here?
And so would it be fair, what we're looking at is no change for 1130 and 3230 would be, admin would not directly supervise another licensed staff member. Licensed staff member wouldn't supervise another family member that's licensed. And then for the support staff, we'll just take out.
Take it out. I
Okay.
do, so for 3230 though, because we were talking about that's a license, it says professional employees though, so I think, to me, that's different than licensed staff, so we should either define that differently or.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I'll make sure that we'll come back to those three on March 12th. Or our next meeting, okay?
Okay. And then we had one more, right, the fund balance?
The fund balance one, yeah. I'm trying to pull it up, but if you pull it up there.
Which one's that?
Number 35 would be 6235.
Correct. All right.
Tanya, did you want to kick this off?
Yeah, I just wanted to pull, which one is this? 4235, is that right? No,
6235, yep.
And pull it up in front of me too, because I can read it better that way. Okay, so there is just a couple, this one has hardly any changes to it. It was one of those minor changes, so I just really wanted to pull it forward more so we could just make sure we're aware of fund balance. We made a lot of decisions this last, really year and a half around our fund balance, and it's something that we're going to be continuing to monitor. I believe that this is something that has not changed from previous years, but the fund balance is expected to be, or at least our policy is that it's 20% 1% of the prior year's expenditures. And so that's something that would continue with this one. So that was one thing. And then I actually did have a question down below. There's a whole bunch of different, I think it's A through E, there's different kinds of fund balances we have. And we identify which one ours kind of fits under. Do you know which one ours kind of, because I kind of thought the unassigned fund balance, but then it also says right in there that the board discourages the maintenance of unassigned fund balances.
Yeah, so we do have assigned fund balances. We rarely use restricted, but unassigned just means it's the overall surplus that goes in. Assigned typically happens at the end of the year when, kind of around COVID, where we were not spending money for curriculum. We were then taking any money that was in that budget and then earmarking it to that. During some of the construction, there were assigned funds. Assigned funds usually have a time limit, but they're basically done so that there's things that kind of are ongoing across years where they might get paid in July versus June.
Okay.
So that those things can occur. So it's just the different cards, and they have different responsibilities where the board action. Restricted funds, are what you have for your bondholders. So that is our dollars that are in typically Fund 38 and 39. And then in this case, where we had an operating levy in 2022, that falls into Fund 49.
Okay.
And so again, it just goes back to that there's certain buckets, and even though we have money to pay off our bonds, we can't use it to pay for something else.
Sure, okay. And then I would assume we have some unassigned funds because when we are deficit spending, for example, the past, I do know that we kind of, nothing gets spent without agreeing to it whenever there's anything from the board, and that's part of policy too, that we agree to those things.
Yes.
But there is dollars in there that if we get into a pickle with something, that they're not pre-assigned to something else.
Yeah, other
Okay.
than our bonds that are
Yeah.
restricted, a majority of your money is in unassigned.
Okay. Well, and having a majority of it in unassigned, which is kind of what I thought, the line right below it says the board discourages the maintenance of unassigned fund balance, and I just wonder if we need to take that out.
Well, it's basically in concert, it's a seesaw or a balancing with the 20%.
Okay.
So you're trying to.
Sure.
What you don't want to do is have it too big, where it becomes a surplus that's not meeting the needs. You're collecting the money to deliver on the programs, but up above, we know that there are going to be times where historically we've had to take a short-term loan. And we've made it now for through another year, and I don't see it in your future, so that's great. And so those are the things that you just have to kind of balance.
Okay.
I agree with you. I don't like that verbiage, but it makes sense what Rick just explained, so I think maybe just we leave it.
And I was just attaching it to
Yeah.
the E, it says unassigned balance, and it describes that, but then right below it says we discourage from the unassigned balance, so it just seems,
Counterintuitive.
yeah,
Yep,
it
yep.
does, so, but,
And I
yeah,
can-
I'm fine,
yeah.
I'm fine keeping it there too.
And I can, if you want to wait till our next board meeting, I can reach out to Neola, and I really appreciate, because obviously when the admin team were looking through 61 of these,
Yeah.
you don't get always to this
Sure.
detail. I'd be happy to look at if there's any modifications that they might recommend, and bring all these four back on.
I don't think it's gonna change the intent of it, so I'm okay with not doing that, but the clarity was
It
nice.
was good discussion.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Any discussion on here? Anybody want to, we can make a motion on this one for 6235 fund balance.
I move to approve policy 6235 fund balance.
I'll second.
All right, that's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. All right, and those other three policies will come back in March. So thank you. All right, we're going to move on. Item C, consider personnel reports for licensed staff. And if I read this right, there isn't any.
There are no resignations, there are no retirements, and there are no new hires. We have a consistent HR staffing. If anybody wants to sub, though, this will be a public service announcement that people that are snowbirds leave us a little bit lean. But there are no personnel reports for tonight.
Fantastic, so no motions are needed. All right, item D, consider first reading of the updated, our new Neola School Board Policies, version 34.1. And the first one is Policy 5330, Administration of Medication Emergency Care.
I just gotta... Okay, I'm gonna have that one up. Of course, it's the one I didn't have up. I apologize. So this one is reviewed by Amy Kraus, who is our registered nurse. Understand, just a reminder, a registered nurse also operates under the guidance of a physician. And then we also have Mel Sherratt, who is over at Malone Elementary. What is new about this policy, as soon as I get it up to your screen, is that we are acknowledging that asthma, for the most part, is something that is pervasive and can be quite debilitating. We have had options where we do have Narcan within our system for drug overdose. We do have other things for students for immediate, urgent, or crisis. And so what they are looking at is being able to include the ability to have bronchodilators for the school district so that in case there was an emergency and the inhaler wasn't at school, we would have one that's designated at each site. Understand that it cannot be administered without a parent prior medical authorization and approval, and it has to be done in consultation with the medical director. At the beginning of every year, we have those emergency cards and medication cards. Our RN is trained, so really what we're asking is that it is a significant event that could occur, and we'd like to be able to have that on site should that emergency occur.
Helen, any questions here?
Nope.
Vicki?
I did notice that one spot was changed at the beginning of the policy to read school district. There are a few other places where it says board that we need to edit to school district. I just want to make sure that all those get caught
Sure.
and get changed. There's another one. Yeah, they're in a couple spots, so just make sure that those are all edited.
On this policy in particular?
Yeah, yeah.
So there's search and replace.
Yeah, search and
So at the
replace.
beginning where it said
Yeah, I
the board
see.
shall not be
Yeah.
responsible for the diagnosis, but really it's
Yeah,
kind
the
of
board
district.
shall
Yeah.
permit, the board, yeah, okay.
Okay.
Tanya, any questions on this one?
Not really. I mean, the bottom part is kind of the main changes, right? Otherwise, it's been in place. I would say I noticed that students in possession of medication, and it includes like sporting events and stuff, and maybe it's just something we let our coaches know about and stuff, because I mean, I think kids bring ibuprofen, I see it all the time, or the pain medicine creams and stuff like that, and it says that they can't have that. And so I feel like they should be able to have that, but I also understand that you gotta monitor it too. So maybe it's just letting the trainer know or the coaches know a little bit about this as a reminder. I don't want any students to get caught up in something like this over ibuprofen.
Okay, is that a policy change on this document then, or are we just?
It's not a change. I guess I just never was something that caught my attention
Oh, okay,
before.
it's, okay.
But maybe now that I have a high school athlete, I pay a little bit more attention to it and.
And if at the school level, as long as families, basically ibuprofen and things like that are able to be accessed, it's just that it has to be pre-approved by a parent, and they can go to any of our nurse aides and things like that. I would assume, Matt, with regards to athletics, it could, not that the students aren't doing that, it's just I'm wondering if the trainer, could be the one that's in possession of it.
It just says students are prohibited from possessing, using, carrying, or distributing in school, at school-sponsored events, on school grounds. So it sounds like they shouldn't have it in their bags at all or anything. Right, and so I just think it's either if we're gonna keep it in there, which is fine, I think it's just sharing it with coaches, and maybe an alternative is the trainer or the coaches, I don't know, maybe there's a designee, I don't know how that works, but, I mean, the kids use some of this stuff, and
As a first reading, can maybe that section of it be looked at and
Sure.
analyzed?
I think we'd be hard pressed, to be honest, to say any of our sports teams
Right.
don't do this.
Yeah.
Or any kid with a headache?
Okay.
Any other areas for us to review?
That was my
Again,
only-
this
that was my
is
only one that
different. This is a
popped out,
first reading.
yeah.
It'll be coming back automatically.
Yep.
Okay?
Anything else, Pat? You got
Nothing for
anything?
me, no.
Okay. Let's do the other one, and then we'll
Go to the other one.
go to do a motion, it looks like. So 7540, Rick, right?
Yeah, yes. And this one is related to our district provides each student with an email account. Obviously, you know, with our 6-12 one-to-one with Chromebooks, it's required and necessary for their access to Google Classroom. Somewhere between third and fifth grade, depending on the teacher and the programming, that also can occur. The primary change here is that students are prohibited from using any district-issued email or password for district-issued email accounts for personal accounts in the third-party services. For example, using that for Facebook, X, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, etc. And then it does put in an asterisk, if you will, without authorization of the principal. And the reason that that's in there is, as you know, both with our digital music and learning, we do use YouTube. Some of our students create it. We have YouTube channels. Understand that those are within our firewall. They are protected. They don't have the ads, that kind of thing. But I did want to make you aware that this is an ad or both for cybersecurity, but also for protection of students who are under 13.
Pat, any questions on this one?
No questions.
Tanya?
I do have a question.
I was gonna skip you.
It's just because some of the policies I read had to do with cybersecurity and training and all that kind of stuff. And I just want to make sure, if it's not already, that this is included within that training. I would say, and it might be, but making sure kids know, because when they get their first email address, they often don't have another, and just making sure that they're really aware that this is only a school, you cannot use this for anything else, because things start to ask and they don't know what to do. So it might already be in that training, but that's just a pull-out.
Well, and to that effect, I did want to make sure that you knew we have met with our technology department and our admin team. Understand that all of our families signed when they received the Chromebooks, acceptable use, so there's kind of a one-to-one exchange. Same for the students. We are looking at middle school, it will be part of the student handbook, and that student handbook will already have some language it'll add.
Yeah.
And then there is a new, basically it's for child protection of online authorization forms that have to be signed if we're using certain programs. And so we are going to build that in, and so the administrative team is modifying a document that will be part of our fall kind of return to school where parents will sign off on
Okay,
that.
and just maybe explain it. Yeah, perfect.
Does the statement somewhere along the line where you're listing X, Facebook, Instagram, do we need to say that this is not an inclusive list? There's others
Et cetera says that.
that, I mean, because people will see, that might be something where kids see it or parents see it and go, well, they're not doing those three.
Yeah, like including but not limited to.
Yeah.
It says
Yeah.
et cetera
Yeah.
in there,
Yeah.
so I wonder if that covers that.
I mean, just something as simple as that, if that works.
No, I think that's
Okay,
helpful. Yep.
okay. And then I have a question. Do students, when they do fundraising for their programs, their trips, their sports trips, their whatever things are going on, and it is, because we do get electronic requests now from students for things, is that unacceptable? Do they need to have a student email to, say, sign up for those fundraising things? And are they using a student email to sign up for those fundraising?
A lot of times it's their cell phone numbers.
Okay. Okay. I had just gotten one, so I didn't know how it was connected to what, so, okay.
Good question. Helen?
No, I have no questions.
All right, they look good. So we're going to take a motion here for these two policies, and there was changes to both of them.
Yep, I have
got 'em written
making,
down?
yep, I have 'em written down, and we'll make those edits, and we'll make sure it's part of your board packets for the regular board meeting in March.
I had replaced the word board with school district, I think was one, and then revisit the language around ibuprofen.
Medication, like
Medication.
additional medication.
Okay, and then for this one, just some small suggestions on including but not limited to for services, third-party services, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so those three. All right, anybody want to take a crack at this?
I move to accept the first reading of the above-noted policies, version 34.1, including edits as summarized by Mike just now. These policies will receive a second reading at the next regularly scheduled board meeting.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That carries. Thank you. Item E, consider school pictures request for proposals for 3-year contract.
We're going to have Rick Montreal come up. He's apprised you with the other slides, so now we
Waiting in
have
the
the
wings.
resolution.
Just couldn't wait to get up here.
Yeah, good evening, board. Yeah, this all started a couple months ago. I came to you with sort of a backstory about how we got to this current situation, about going to picture RFP again. Part of that started 3 years ago as we were doing the same process. That led to the last 3 years of service, and I kind of documented, again, the why and the how we got here. And then last month, the update was basically we had 4 proposals, and then the team that had representation from each building, there was a team of 5 of us. We've gotten together then in the process and did the evaluating. So now tonight I come to you with our selection. From the 4 proposals, I just wanted to point out we did rank and rate each of those RFPs that came in using criteria like quality and performance. And that entire list you can see up there. We kicked it around a couple meetings, and after the consideration of what we were looking for and what would be the best fit for us, we decided to go with Cahill Photography. Some of the, I would say the main variables that drove our decision were there things that fit what we were looking for well, basically customer service, services beyond just the school photos, their timeline, performance, and references. And I think one of the key things that we found out was that last thing. They are servicing 6 middle border schools right now, and when I reached out to them, I got a really good sense that they kind of had it figured out with schools our size, our demographic. So that to me and our team made the most sense. So are there any questions about that at this time?
Vicki?
No.
Anything? Helen?
No question.
Tanya? Vicki?
no
No?
questions.
No?
I have no questions.
All right.
No questions.
Sounds like you did a lot of homework here, so yes, it looks great, Rick, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Well
Thank you,
done.
Rick.
All right, we can take a motion on this one.
I move to approve the administration recommendation for Cahill Photography
I'll second.
for,
Wait,
Oh, sorry.
why is there a blank? For a 3-year contract starting with 25-26 school year through 27-28
yeah.
to serve as PSD school pictures vendor.
I'll second.
You were just excited.
Well, there was a long pause.
There was a long pause.
There was a long pause.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. And we'll move to item F, consider the Human Growth and Development Advisory Committee.
And I'm going to have Michael Kozmowski come up. You know that we've had some updates on this. What is unique about the Human Growth and Development Advisory is that in statute, we have to have a broad swath of the community, and Michael's going to walk you through the slate of people that requested to be part of it and walk you through the process.
Good evening, Board. Like I presented last time, as Dr. Spuzza said, there's different statutes around human growth and development, and if a district decides to do human growth and development education, then there are certain things that we have to teach as well. Whenever there's a curriculum adoption or basically an overhaul of that curriculum, then we have to form an advisory committee that will then look at the curriculum that the teachers have created and then advise the school district on that curriculum. Part of that work of this committee then will be looking at what are the things we are required to teach in statute, and then developmentally and at what grade levels are we teaching them, and then advising on if they would suggest an adjustment. As you can see in the statute, we're supposed to have a group that consists of parents, staff, healthcare professionals, clergy, and district or other residents of the district. Also in statute, it does say that no one group except for parents can be more than 1/5 or 20% of the overall group. Go ahead, Rick. So one of the things is just how big of a group do we want? Is part of that depends on the goal and task. Fewer than 5 people, you typically are underrepresented. More than 15, somewhat difficult to operate and make decisions. However, this group is more of sharing viewpoints and opinions and recommendations to the board. So the bigger the group you have for that, the more knowledge you're going to have in the room, the more advocates you're going to have, the more input you're going to have, because they're obviously going to talk to other people in the community as well. So the next slide talks about the demographics of the people that applied. Again, we posted this both on our Facebook page, and there was an email to our 4K through 12 families in early January. And then by the end of January, we had 19 applicants from our community that applied to be on that. You can see that the names are on the bottom. And then our 3 staff really are the 3 health teachers that help develop the curriculum and will be delivering the curriculum. As you can see on the different percentages there, it's difficult somewhat to separate people out because they've identified that I am a parent, but I'm also a healthcare professional. So you can see that that percentages is over the 20% because 8 of the parents of our students are also healthcare professionals. I don't know that we need to go through though and assign, oh, you're representing the healthcare field and you're representing a parent. That's difficult to do, right? And then just true members of the residency or of our district without students. We have one person that fits into that category, but all but one are also live in our district. There is one that's open enrolled family that wanted to be part of the process as well. So even though percentage-wise, again, depending on how you want to, like we know in data, you can find all different ways to slice it and dice it. The recommendation we have is that, given that this is an advisory, given that they're going to give you a broader sense and a broader feeling of our community and what our community values, the recommendation is that you would adopt all of them as into this advisory, and that will then trigger our next step, which will be reaching out to them, trying to set up meetings, sort of timelines, commitments, so people know what they're getting themselves into, and then again being able to go forward with that. We know that with this large of a group, 21 people, you're never going to find a day and time that works for everyone. But then the other part is, do we still allow them to have that input? And I think we would, right? Do we want their input? Sure. If they're not at that initial meeting, we can always do follow-ups, or just provide them with the information to allow them to do that as well. So that is the recommendation. Is again, this first step in the process is that you need to adopt or have a committee. The recommendation is that you adopt everyone that applied for the committee.
Tanya, any questions here?
Well, Michael, your recommendation was 5 to 15 people, and I understand your reasoning for going a little beyond that. It's like a handful more people and stuff, and so I'm fine with it as long as you are. I know that some of the worry was just productivity and all that, but I do think my experience with this kind of project is that some people will fall off and not participate in the long run, or it just doesn't end up working out in their schedule, so, yeah. So it sounds fine to me.
Yeah, the other part is we do teach at 4 different grade levels, so we,
Sure.
depending on how they want to organize, are they going to look at all 4 grade levels worth of curriculum? Or are there some that I'm more interested at the middle school level versus
Sure,
the high
divide
school
up
level,
into a
and they'll
couple
kind of
groups.
divide themselves out,
Yeah. That was all. Looks great.
Is there some sort of a term length of the committee? Are they
It's
on
very
forever?
vague in statute of, does this committee, how often do they, there's nothing in there of how often does this committee need to meet. It's just when there is curriculum development. And right now, we are piloting a new curricular resource, so that's why this is coming up now. Otherwise, in my 20 years here, we have never had an advisory committee that has done this work and given the board feedback on our curriculum.
Sure. So a little bit of this is going to be kind of feeling out.
Yep.
But I have no other questions. Thanks.
Yeah, Vicki?
And since there isn't a strict schedule, how many times you meet, that sort of thing, so then there probably isn't, like, we need everybody to attend every meeting. You don't know as far as what you're.
No, in other
you're gonna
districts, when
need.
I've reached out, they've said, we've just never followed that state statute. We've never done that. Someone said, yeah, we have done that.
We won't name those
Yeah,
districts.
we won't name it. Again, there's no police. The police is local
Right.
control, right?
Right.
So what's our local control here? Do we want to be meeting multiple times a year? I know when I first started in teaching and learning, I tried to get an advisory committee put together, and the only person from the community that was interested was Marshall Linseth, who formerly had done curriculum development in the district. So how often will this group need to meet or feel like meeting? This could be something that's ongoing, once a year meeting, but really, if nothing's being revised, I don't see the need for that as well.
Gotcha.
So I think part of that will be sort of this committee as well, is
Okay.
how often do they feel
Okay.
like we need to come back and revisit it, or is it just when there's a major overhaul, new curriculum,
Okay.
new resources that we're using?
Okay.
Helen?
I don't really have any questions. Good for following policy, and the group looks, well diverse, so that's good, so.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. This looks good.
Thanks, Michael.
All right, anybody want to make a motion here?
Yeah.
I move to approve our Human Growth and Development Committee as a slate presented by Michael Kozmalski of Teaching and Learning.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. All right, item G, accept the lumber donation for Prescott High School Tech Ed.
Yeah, our tech ed department continues to do amazing things, and also partnering with community members. Anytime the district receives contributions of in excess of $5,000, it doesn't have to just be recognized at the board level. And I apologize, I didn't check on the pronunciation, but is it Harley Hotchkiss?
Yep.
All right. Has donated lumber and also trees for our community ed that, we're doing the planes and the kilns, and that has hit a level of $18,225.
Awesome, Josh.
I think it's great. Pat, anything on this?
No question.
Tanya?
No questions at all. I think I have just really had fun kind of following the progression of this program. So it's fun to see the community getting involved too. It's great.
There's some more great things coming.
Vicki?
I don't have anything. This is spectacular.
Helen?
Kind of piggyback, it's amazing, so, yeah.
I know it was recommended to us, but it's one of the best decisions we've made to approve the supplies that they need to build this stuff, or to cut it up, and the wood chipper, or the wood cutter and all that. So, awesome. Take a motion here.
I move to accept the lumber donation for the Prescott High School Tech Program of $18,225.
I'll second.
That is a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries, and we're on to item H, except at Afton Elp.
Yep, so Afton Alps during
Afton.
Good News.
Afton Apple.
Afton
I
Apple.
said-
I did this last
I
year.
did that too. I just recognized it's Afton Apple.
Sarah, I'm just hoping I can get a ski pass from you. So just wanted to thank them again for their ongoing contributions to our district, and it hits in so many different levels. Truly appreciated. I want to just verify with Michael, because it was an additional, my understanding tonight, of $8,500? Okay, and that's what we're kind of accepting, but there have been previous that I think reach over it, was it?
75,000 was last 8 years.
Okay, so tonight we're kind of acknowledging the 8,500 that was earlier presented.
All right, any questions or comments down here, Helen? No. Vicki? Nope. Tanya?
Well, I feel like I'm going to comment here, just because it's super, super amazing. We're very thankful. This is the orchard my family's always gone to, and as a teacher, this is where we went for field trips, and it's just really fun to see them participate and give back in our community. And I think one of the things that I think is I just think really unique and I really appreciate about it is they seem to really do their research and what the community in the building is looking for and needing, rather than just, this is what we want to put it towards. It seems like it's a really collaborative approach to and thoughtful approach to where this money goes. And it's not a small amount of money, and it goes really far, and it has a big impact. So it's cool. It's really fun to see, and I'm definitely, makes me proud to be part of this community when these things happen.
Yes, Pat?
No, well said. I have no other comments, yeah.
Agreed. Thanks, Tanya, for mentioning that, and we'll take a motion here.
I move to accept the Afton Apple donation in the amount of $8,500 to Fund 21 Gifts and Grants.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. We're on to item I, consider the PSD speech team overnight trip for the state speech event.
Matt Smith, our Activities Director.
Yeah, so State High School speech trip, it's in Madison, and it is an overnight, that's why we're here. It is an annual one, so we've gone to it for every year that we've had students qualify for it. Currently 25 members, we'll see if they all qualify or not. We're hoping they all do. Kind of the reason we're here is Tanya Sponholz did a great job of leading this program for years. She crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's. We have co-advisors this year, Ann Cressley and Allison Langer have taken it over. They're doing a wonderful job, but just making sure everything's on the up and up. That'd be Fund 10 then for our expenses, and then any offset expenses above and beyond would be Fund 21, which they're fundraising for right now. So they'd love the opportunity to go down there and continue a strong program and show what we got at state.
All right, any questions on here, Pat?
You know, when we send other teams to state, right, the district picks up a portion of those costs, and those routinely come out of 10 as well, right?
Yes.
I couldn't remember how we did that, so no, that's, no questions. Good luck to them. Yeah.
Right.
I'll pass on the message.
Tanya?
Do we send them off on like a bus and the parade and all that kind of stuff too?
They can do, the March of
Okay,
Champions, one of the
perfect.
other schools, and
It's awesome. I'm proud of them. I know you brought up Tanya Sponholz, and I think she carried this program for a long time and was probably like an unsung hero of this program and stuff. So it's great to see that it's still going strong, and there's new advisors in there that are really taking the lead. So it's awesome.
Vicki?
So when does the qualifying happen, and when would you know?
They've had sub-districts, and then they'll have between Hudson and Altoona and Menominee, I'm trying to remember which one off the top of my head is actually the qualifier. I believe it is middle of March around there.
Okay.
So we'll have probably 2 to 3 weeks before we'll know for sure. So not putting the cart in front of the horse, but we have reserved rooms already just in case.
Okay.
We're not
Probably a good idea.
I already have state softball reserves.
So we're not to jinx anything, but we are making sure we're prepared.
Okay, so I just, since you didn't have the number and you're already starting the fundraising and all of that sort of thing, early, I was just curious as to what was going on, since you don't know exactly how many you're sending. Starting early is good, so, fantastic.
Helen?
Yeah, no questions. I think this is a great program. I'm still thrown it's not called forensics anymore, that they changed that.
You and I both.
Yeah, exactly. But I think this group of students are amazing, so I think it'll be great.
See, and I grew up with,
What?
North Dakota, we called it speech.
No, it's
We didn't
forensics.
call it forensics.
Well, and actually,
Middle
they changed the name.
Yeah, they
Because
did.
forensic,
Through
they
me.
have moved back to speech.
Yeah, like when I always knew it
So
as
no
speech.
CSI.
Yeah,
Thanks, Matt.
Side topic.
Take a motion here.
I move to accept the overnight state speech trip for April 11th and 12th.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries, and we're on to the last item, which is consider moving the March board meeting. Did we miss something?
Nope, I apologize. Yep.
It was kind of hidden in there. I
Yes,
just-
so,
yeah.
so, because of spring break, there's been a recommendation to move the board meeting to March 12th, 1 week earlier, at 6 PM at Prescott High School Media Center.
Any questions on this one?
My only question is, as previously discussed, I will not be in attendance at that board meeting.
Right, and the rationale is it's spring break week, we looked at the week after, but we're doing superintendent stuff that
Correct.
day,
Yep.
so this is one of our best options.
Yep.
Superintendent search stuff. We'll get into here in info and discussion probably, so, yeah, we'll take a motion.
I move to approve moving the March board meeting to March 12th at 6 PM in the Prescott High School Library.
a second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. Thank you. We're moving on. Info and discussion. First item is the superintendent search process update. And I suppose you're looking
Well,
at me.
that goes to you. But I'll start with, the website has been continuing to keep people informed. There is a survey that is open and continues through Friday, 21st? Saturday, okay. So it'll go through Saturday, and again, that's available on the website with the QR code, and that'll be giving information. And then there are some focus groups that are occurring starting tomorrow and Friday. But I think the other questions some individuals may have, I think for the board, is just kind of what are some of the dates beyond the focus groups that are happening kind of in March?
Oh, beyond the focus groups. Okay, so let's just back up a second here. So the survey is available on the website, so anybody can fill out the survey. And really what that is, it's just pretty much a one-page survey that is gathering information on what qualities we are as a district and what we're looking for in a superintendent. So anybody can fill that out, and there's comments that you can add. And it's really all in faith to gather information to build a profile of what the next superintendent, what the qualities we're looking for in the next superintendent. So that's what the survey is for. And I'm kind of winging it here because I was looking at this earlier, but the focus, and then the focus groups, can you show the focus group schedule, Rick?
I can.
So the focus groups are designed to do the same thing, except to have basically dialogue around this. And we're hitting many different segments, district office, staff, all employees. There's civic groups, staff in all the buildings, parent, community members have an opportunity at admin. The admin team has a focus group. High school students, and then basically there's at least one opportunity, maybe two, I think, at least one opportunity for a virtual meeting for anyone that wants to join in a Zoom call.
Yeah.
And that's down at the bottom there on
Yep,
February
20.
26th.
Oh, 26, sorry.
So I would encourage any member of the community to, if you're not falling into one of these other focus groups, to join that Zoom meeting and provide feedback there. It's an opportunity for everyone in the district to provide input on what qualities, what the district does well, what the district needs to work on, and qualities that we want in our next characteristics and qualities that we want in our next superintendent. Anything to add on that piece, you guys?
Andrea, do you have any indication of how many surveys are getting completed at this time?
I spoke with Stacy Ritchie, who kind of does the surveys, and I'll provide kind of feedback on the portal. And she said that the response has been really great. She hadn't heard from students, so I made sure to send it to Mr. Igo and Mr. Vicky. And she said those started coming in immediately. We'll do another push here till the end of the week to get as much as possible, and that those focus groups too.
Okay.
Discussion might help them along with
I think, and for people that, because we're mic'd up here and it's recorded, so Andrea had just responded that the, talking to our agency, the survey, they're coming in, the community's responding, the students are starting to respond now too, which is great, and there'll be a final push this week. And Andrea, and I don't know, I know that we have some events within the community, like home basketball games and stuff like that. Can we put QR codes just like out there when, because I think there's a game, like there's senior night, awesome, we can take that, okay. Yeah, that'll be perfect then, thank you.
Right, and then I think I just want to call out a couple other dates that are important. Applications for the superintendent application process those are closing on February 28th. And then, we begin the first round of interviews, and I believe we settled on the first round of interviews is that week, and I'm just trying to find the date, you
I
guys.
probably have it on my calendar here.
It was March
6th or something.
6th or something, March.
It was March 8th. It's a Saturday. We're going to be doing all the first round interviews on a Saturday, March 8th. The school board will do that. And once that process is done, it gets narrowed down to 3 finalists. And there'll be a process around that our HYA will help us and facilitate us to narrow that down for the 3 finalists, or 2 or 3 finalists we're going to end up hopefully having. 2 to 3 to maybe even 4, I guess. The recommendation was 3, but I think it's really up to the board to decide. So once the finalists are decided and notified, there'll be 2 important days. And the first one is a day in the district that the finalists will be on the premises, and they'll go from building to building and meet different groups of staff and employees and just different groups and students, and get a chance to meet and meet the different groups. And remind me, does anybody remember, I think that's just basically a meet and greet, right? I don't believe they're getting grilled with questions at that point, are they?
Right.
No, I thought they had kind of sit down and conversations, and then I'm pretty sure we'd get live feedback as to what.
Is that?
Yeah, I think the purpose, they're going to be touring, meeting with different
So that was the day,
groups
and that
stuff,
day, that superintendent day in the district is on March 26th.
And the final
Which is a
interviews.
Wednesday. So all the you're right, now I remember, because all the feedback gets collected and disseminated to us. And then Thursday, March 27th is the actual final round of superintendent interviews that the board will be conducting. So that all happens, and we hope to have a finalist, at least at a board level, selected that week after the final interviews, and then we move forward with the rest of the process to try to bring, the background checks and all the other stuff that goes behind the scenes to the negotiations for contracts. All that happens, and then I think we'll be shooting for sometime in April to have that hire approved in April, sometime early April. So that's kind of where the process is at. It's been going really well. HYA they're really energetic, they're really positive. I think they do an excellent job. They're very thorough. The technology, it's a lot different than it was 10 years ago, I tell you. But anybody else have anything to add here? I don't know if I'm all over the board here, but I just wanted I'll open it up.
No, I'm excited. There's one of the reasons why we went with this agency was because of how many outreach opportunities in different ways they're trying to get feedback from the community. And I think that's really important for all of us in this search, is that we have some of that feedback. And so I think so far they've done everything we've asked them to do. They've been great. And as a community member, if you have opinions about the district, how it's run, who should be running it, where you want us to head, which many community members do as they should, I would encourage you to go fill out the survey. The city of Prescott also has a survey, so you could also do that survey while you're at it, and give us some feedback.
All right, anything else? Pat, do you have any comments, or?
No, the only comment is HOA's got their dashboard up, so we've got a live look into the applicants and all of that. And I was on there today, and they seem to be doing a great job. It's up to date, and excited to keep moving.
Yeah, Vicki?
No, I don't know how you guys, it's a lot of information, and having done it 10 years ago, I don't know how you did it when you had everything on paper and we're handed stuff. This ability to comb through the information online for us is really nice to have access at our fingertips for all of this, so. I like what HYA has done so far, and I'm excited. It's nice to hear that we do have community members hopping on the survey and diving into that. That's great. Got one more rest of the week to get her done, so
Helen?
looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think it's all been said, but I like the fact that HOA, all the stakeholders can have their say, from the community to the students, admin, and so on. So, it's my first process, or my first time doing this process, so it's an eye opener.
Mike's the only one who's been through this.
Yeah, but it's going well, so that's good.
Maybe just one note in case there's any potential applicants out there. So just to back up, all this information that the board has access to is confidential. Names are confidential, they're not released, and that's on purpose. The only time the superintendent's candidates' names will be released are in that final round. That's when the finalists get released, their names get released. Otherwise, you run into issues with some people might not want to apply if they know that, their name's going to be out there. So I want to point that out. The first round of interviews, that's all closed session, for lack of a better word. It's closed to the public, but that's by design. The final round, when the finalist names can be revealed, that's open to the public, and the names are released at that point. So again, really excited about the process so far. HYA has been great for us, and we look forward to giving another update here next month. We can move on, Rick. We'll go to item B, which we're going to roll item E and B together.
Correct. So we had promised to kind of give people an update on a standing item about state funding 101. And we didn't want to have to do it only when the community, or only when a board was asking for money through an operating levy. This time of year is extremely important for our community and for our school board, and we are asking for a call to action. Understand that the governor released his proposal and budget last night. That recording is available. He presented that at 7 o'clock. That is the last piece before kind of the action occurs. The Assembly and House are already passing bills. You had primary yesterday for the state superintendent, and it's down to 2 candidates, and that'll be finalized in the vote of April 1st. Obviously, then you have the governor, and these are all proposals, and they have to negotiate that. I think for our community, it is important to try to make sure that they understand things that we talked about. And here's a slide that shows the distribution of each student and how much money they bring for enrollment by membership. And one of the things that we all know is that Prescott Public Schools, for this current fiscal year, we are receiving $11,399. If you look on this chart, you can see that we are in the bottom.
We didn't even make the chart.
We're in the bottom of fourth, we're in the, below the fourth percentile in the state of the 420 districts. But this is an amazing span. You can see that it goes from 11,500 all the way to over 16,000 per pupil. So part of the formula is based on, first, how much money a child that crosses the threshold brings with him or her, and that it's different by district. And so there's a lot of work that's going on trying to make that more equitable, and so that there isn't the biggest gap. So they're trying to shrink that range, and I think it would be really helpful for people to be able to just be aware and to think about that. Secondly is that as we kind of move through understanding the demographics of Wisconsin, birth rates in Wisconsin, and for Prescott Public Schools, we are looking at funding across time. So I'll go here first. Funding across time based on enrollment. As you can see, in 2011, 2012, we were just over 1,300 students. And if you think about, if you were to draw a trend line up to 2016, and you had a demographic study that was done by the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and we also were over capacity in many of our facilities and also had portables. That was the time when you were able to pass, and a community supported this building, a new facility that has given us great opportunities for new programming from community tech ed, from FACS, from our theater program, sports, and the like. It allows us to collaborate. So there are many benefits for that. It was the first reoccurring where we had a operating levy put in place. We started to plateau through 2021, and that was our peak enrollment. And then you can see that our enrollment is and has been declining, such that it is below where and when we opened the high school. This is more to say that this is a both and. We understand that we are funded by pupil, and we are at the lowest end, and funding for public schools for the last 16 years has been below inflation. So we are very happy and proud that the community supported another referendum to be able to provide operating. But it doesn't and can't accelerate us past 16 years of trailing inflation, nor can it leapfrog when you're at the fourth percentile. This is said primarily for advocacy at the state level, but also for us to better understand that we are funding survival, not necessarily a windfall, right? And so I wanted to make sure that people kind of understood this slide, where the red is the state average with regards to revenue per member, and then blue is Prescott. And so you can see in 2016 was that operating levy. It was a renewal. So previously it was every 4 years we had to go to the community. And that 4 years to the left of that vertical line showed that we were kind of staying consistent with the state average in revenue. We were able to then, we would have fallen below if we didn't renew it, and it continued. You can see from 2021 forward is that we started to lose ground to the state. That's why we're at the fourth percentile. That's when we came back in to have an additive operating levy that's stacked on top of the previous one, right? So why are we talking about this? It's because this is the year where legislation will provide the funding for public education over the next 2 years for 25, 26, 26, and 27. And that's important for us to be, and ask our community to stay vigilant. Know that there are many programs that were funded, Act 20, early literacy at $50 million. That money has been held hostage by the Joint Finance Committee. It is never going to be released and see a classroom in the state of Wisconsin. And to me, that's a travesty. I think we need, when the legislature approves appropriations, they have to stand up and back those promises. It's hurting and harming students. It's hurting and harming our staff. Secondly, is that with declining enrollment, we know that our revenue streams will go down. Even with the bump up, with the operating levy, I want to be clear, we have looked at the forecast model, and my goal is to work with Kara to have for you before the late spring, proposed draft budget for next year. At this point, we are looking that the revenue based on enrollment will be identical to this year. You will have the same amount of revenue coming in as you had for this year. And so as costs go up, these are some things that I would encourage our community to better understand, that 100% of school districts in Wisconsin do not get enough funding to fund special education programs that are mandated. Currently, we take $1.8 million out of Fund Bucket 10 and put that into special education. We need to provide those programs. They're the appropriate things to do. We're just asking the state government to stand up and increase it from 30% to 60% as recommended. Secondly, it was mentioned last night is that they want to make it basically fund sufficient, meaning when they tell you they're giving you money for special education, it will be sufficient to cover whatever percentage they choose, whether that's 30, 35, 40. Right now it's fund certain, and so what happens is as there are more special education costs, it drains that bucket faster. The other piece is that private and some charter schools are getting funded more than public schools. Currently, we're back down to 30% on funding for special education, and we believe that that is one specific area that should go up. One of the headwinds, I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware, and we've talked about this now for 2 years, and it's a somewhat of a concern, would be that Fund 50 is our food service. We had projected a loss. We are trending with better revenue than projected, but our expenses have been cut, but we're still going to lose $75,000. That will wipe out its fund balance. By law, they cannot be negative, and therefore we will be cross-subsidizing next year. I would say that most of that is due to not prices, it has to do with declining enrollment. We have 4 facilities, 4 kitchens. It is, I know, the board, and one thing I won't be able to deliver for you before my retirement is Vision 2035. But I think you have a great opportunity with the participation of our community through the survey, the focus groups, some of the curriculum, that I would really encourage the board to continue with the partnership and engagement of its community to talk about how we can look at making adjustments on our end to tighten the buckle so that we can be more efficient. And I think that 4th kitchen, 4th staffing, it is going to put a drag on the system, but I know that you already have that on your radar and are looking at that. So one of the things I just wanted to ask is if you had any specific questions about other things our community could advocate for or ways that you as a board could be engaged.
Pat, any comments here on anything?
No comments. Rick, I appreciate, the reminders, and obviously, upcoming election's very important. I think excited for, the new superintendent search. I think those who are going to participate in some of the surveys or some of the community engagement events, that developing the Vision 2035 along with the board is going to be really, really important work. Like we said before the referendum was passed, we knew that this was still going to be continuously fragile. We got some work ahead of us, but it does provide us the opportunity, to make informed decisions, to make, timely decisions and do what's in the best interest of the district. But that'll be really important work of our next superintendent and the board.
Yeah, Tanya?
Rick, I really appreciate the simplicity of these slides that you share, because you never cease to have new ways to share this information with us, and this was just really nice and simple in a graph that's just really easy for us to see here. I share in the frustration and concern you have when it comes to school funding, specifically in Wisconsin. And one of our concerns we've been talking about for about a year now, and Michael's shared with us too, is our reading program. And we've always been a little worried that the state's not going to deliver on their promise to help fund that or to fund it. And it sounds like, and I read the information too, that it's not going to be funded at this point. And so just continuous reminders to community members, to families that are advocating for children and advocating for schools, and I believe advocating for communities, is that we continue to get state-mandated requirements of our staff and of what we do as a school, but yet they're not funded. And so even though we did pass a new operating levy, it's occurring. These are the things that it doesn't consistently account for. We now are paying for this. We're not getting the money that we were promised. We're really just back to kind of riding equal, almost, still under the state, but with being at that 3.8% in the overall state funding, with overall state funding, we're going to keep dipping down below. And these are the things that we just keep pulling out of that limited funding that's going to dip us down faster and faster. So this reoccurring referendum isn't something that's going to fix the problem for us. And so keep advocating, keep talking. I heard special ed up to 60%. I really hope that passes. Am I correct, Rick, that some of the choice schools are being funded, or private schools up to, is it 90%? 100%. So thank you, Sandy. Some of those schools are, the private schools using federal dollars that don't even have all the same requirements as us, state funds, yep, are up to 100% funded. We're at 30%. So it's a frustration. I think our voice, reaching out to people, legislation, writing things for the newspapers, all those things are what all of us can do. I know I, for one, could do a better job at that. That's all I have.
Well said. Vicki?
Yeah, it was a kind of a blow to hear that all that money that's been set aside is more than likely going to go back into the general fund for the state when the schools so desperately need it. Michael and his team have done an amazing job to really make sure that they knew this was coming. How are we going to get there? We know we are going to have to do it. Let's get there sooner if we can. So we're a little more prepared for it, but that doesn't make the budget restraints any easier. So to hear that we're going to be more than likely not getting any of that money just makes it then a little more frustrating if there are other things that they are thinking public schools need to do. One of the things I saw was testing of our water. What can the school district do testing our water here in the school? We get city water. That's the city's priority. How is that now the responsibility of a school district? That's some proposed legislation. And we could do it, but if they're not going to fund it, again, that's something then that falls back on us. So I think some of these legislators have great ideas. They just need to help school districts follow through on them. Everybody in these buildings wants to do the best job that they can for kids. And everybody is trying every day, but the state is forcing communities to really stretch that dollar and continue to go back to taxpayers to ask to meet these mandated programs that the state is throwing at us. So I don't know what the future holds for us. This referendum did give us some time to plan ahead. We know what the declining enrollment looks like. We've known that this is coming. We know we've got 4 buildings. We've got a lot of things on our radar. So I think, yes, having the opportunity with a new incoming superintendent and to sit down and really hammer this out with is the next thing that has to happen so that we can keep these doors open here in Prescott.
Ellen, anything there?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's been said, but I think it comes down to, as well, there's stuff that you can do. Make your word known, write letters. It's easy to make these decisions when you're not looking at people's faces. And so, just like the school board, right? Before I was a board member, I was here because I wanted people to see, this is what a teacher's face looks like. This is who's in your district, right? And this board's always done a great job on, they know that there's someone behind, it's not just a name, it's a teacher, right? There's a person behind there doing it. So it's easy for the state to make these decisions when they're not looking at students, when they're not looking at the teachers. If there's a way to get to the Capitol and make your side known, whatever that side is, I think that's where we need to be right now. Writing letters, really asking those questions. Like you said, this was for Act 20. You said this was for reading. Where is it? The teachers are doing their part. We're getting trained, and I say we because I am one. We're getting trained. We're doing all this stuff. Now the districts need to be reimbursed so they can actually do what they need to do. So just making your presence known and getting up to Capitol Hill, writing letters, talking to your congressman. We have people in the area that you can talk to. We can't be quiet now. We have to be loud. So.
You guys pretty much said it all. I'll just go back to, I'm very thankful that the Prescott community supported the last referendum. We would be in a really tough spot if they didn't. And that first slide that Rick shared kind of said it all to me. I mean, we're in the bottom 4% of the entire state for state funding. It's ridiculous. And yes, we're getting close to the median on that second slide that Rick shared. We're getting close to that average, but that's on the back of the local taxpayers. It's because we have a strong community that supports our schools that puts us at just below average for state funding. And look at what we're doing with it. I mean, the results that the schools in our district have shown are, we're at the top academically in just about every category across the entire middle border. Our performing arts is amazing. Our athletics is absolutely amazing and crushing it. It's for what the community members of Prescott get for their dollar is far more than the state average, far more. And so I'm very thankful that we have such a strong community of support. And I know this last one was really tough. It was somewhat polarizing, the referendum was. But at the end, it was absolutely necessary to keep us moving forward, at least for the short period of time here. So, Rick, what else? Where are we moving to?
For the board report, just wanted to let you know that, I think it was Pat, yep, the clerk had to sign off. Jackie Montreal, before she left, helped us with the final January count. So schools within the state have to report membership on the third day in September and the second Friday in January. The total count is 1242. The main reason I bring that to your attention is that this goes back to building a budget. The numbers for January and September lock in equalization aid, because equalization aid always trails enrollment by 1 year. The levy cap is set by your enrollment in September and summer. So the levy cap, that's the formula that tells you how much you can levy, and then this part will be how you end up rank ordered with equalization. This is We, on the previous slide, are going to be working on giving you the forecast model, so we're locking in equalization. Again, one additional piece to help you. I can share with you that we're projecting that we'll have 35 fewer students enrolled next year, which is about a decrease of $400,000. That's why our revenue will be about the same. The good news is, if and when enrollment starts to pick back up, you will see a gradual acceleration. It's easy to plan when you're growing. It's harder to manage when you're decreasing. But that operating levy goes on the base, so you will move off the 4th percentile. So I just wanted to let you know that. The difficulty is that there's a bunch of referendum that passed or went yesterday. Shout out to Mauston, because Mauston was going to have to deauthorize as being a district, and it passed its referendum by 2-1. So good for that community. But then in April, you'll see many more districts going. So all I can tell you is our per member pupil aid is going to move up. We will no longer be in the 4th percentile. I can't tell you, it won't go above 50th percentile, but you're going to jump out of that piece, okay? So anyway, Pat signed off on this. We are looking at a decrease with an overall average for membership next year. It's based on 3-year average, and our estimate on that 3-year average would be 1,256 students. So whatever per pupil, times it by 1,256, and you'll start to know what the revenue is. All right.
All right.
All right. That's what I had for just advocacy. Thank you for the board for talking about different ways. I'm going to have Michael come up and share some of the work that he and Chantel have been able to do based on one of the priorities that you had promised both to our staff.
Rick, just so I can get us on track here, we're basically on item C, which is combined with F.
Yes.
So teaching and learning update, and then the PDP teacher licensure?
Yes.
Okay.
Not that I want to talk about this, but we...
Conference.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So, yes, WS, so.
We're going to hold off on item C and F for a second here.
Mike and Tanya joined me at the conference in Milwaukee, and we wanted to be able to share some updates and sessions that you participated in. And I know that you sit with the WSA trying to work on a delegation and lobby for statewide, and then also, do you want to talk a little bit about what you sat in on?
Sure, I'm reflecting back. So I went to a couple of different trainings. What's unique about this conference is that there's probably about 50 to 75 different kind of, at least, sessions you can choose from. So we all tend to kind of choose different tracks. And so I went to one on attendance and some kind of strategies to increase in attendance. That's a concern across many districts in the past handful of years, 5 years. And then I also went to multiple ones on staff retention, as well as some contract pieces that, as we dive into looking at how we compensate our staff, licensed and non-staff, and that some of those were great to go to, and had some really great ideas and things to talk about and think about. And as we look into that more, I'll be able to pull some of that stuff forward. So, yeah. One of the things, and we've kind of talked, like, are these things that we can and can't do, and one of them was about having districts that are self-insured and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that are kind of going on that are a little bit unique and stuff like that we just don't know that much about yet, but yeah.
Yes, all right, thanks, Tanya. And then I went down to the WASB delegate assembly to basically advocate on behalf of the school district and vote on resolutions that were brought forth to the WASB meeting. There was 12 resolutions were brought forth, 10 of them passed, and I'll just, a couple points. The big one I would call out was just advocacy for school funding, and That was one of the ones that, there's a Blue Ribbon Commission that kind of advocates, I think they had 20 facets of funding that they want to advocate for at the state level, mainly just, so to sum it up, it's really just funding for public schools is what the resolution advocates for, to kind of sum it up. And then the other one that didn't pass, which was interesting, I wanted to call out, was there was a resolution to decouple public and private school funding. So private school funding would be decoupled from public school funding, and it failed. And the rationale, I think, from the folks that voted no, was if private school funding gets decoupled from public school funding, it can become a lot easier to actually give more public or private school funding, because if they're not coupled, now they can start cutting out more money for private schools. To give the state can cut out more money for private schools if it's not tied to public. Because if it's tied to the public bucket, then it has to be. It's a yin and a yang. So that's if it's coming from, if private schools are getting more money and it's coming from us, well, it's more of a balance is kind of the way I would. I'm doing a horrible job explaining it, but basically, it failed for that reason.
That makes sense, because if you were looking at budgeting thing, you could say, hey, we're going to 90% put the money into private schools or public schools, vice versa. So this makes it so.
And I think one of the examples was in Arizona. This happened in Arizona, and it really crushed the public school funding because private schools were getting more and more money, thus creating a bigger gap of spending. Between public and private schools, and it crushed the private schools.
And I think part of what this does, because it's coupled, doesn't it then, if more money comes out of our public school dollars because it's going into vouchers, because of that formula that we have from the state that actually allows us as a public school district, they give us we'll ask your taxpayers for more money, because we said you could be up here. Well, we took it away, but you get it from your local taxpayers. So if they decoupled, then we lose that as an option, and we just have to go with what we have. So that was part of my understanding with it too, that.
So that's all I got.
And I think it kind of ties back into just asking our community to stay, and a call to action to watch the legislative process of how funding moves forward between now and the end of June.
And again, these are resolutions on behalf of the WASB to go lobby at the state level. We're not passing law. It's just it's a stance on, it's a position on particular areas of school. All right, Rick, go ahead.
Now I have Michael come up.
All right, so the update I have for teaching and learning is our teachers who had PDP, it's under PI 34, the restructure of licensure for Wisconsin teachers that happened in 2005 through 2018. And one of the things is that that's come forward is that the school board would like us to look at potential alternative compensation models for those people, because the way that compensation at that time was all by credits through universities. And previous to this, that was the way that teachers maintained their licensure, was through credits through universities. Then in 2005, the state said, anyone new, you have to do a professional development plan. Anyone previous to that can stay on the credits or switch over to a professional development plan. However, the way that most schools were set up was steps for years of service and lanes for credit, or college credit, because the better trained you are, the more valuable you are to the district. There never was, though, developed a model at the Prescott School District for the people that were still getting that professional development through this professional development plan, but then the compensation for that. And yes, there was different school board members, different superintendent. At that time, we did have collective bargaining. We had all those things, and that just never happened. So Dr. Spaguzza talked with HR and myself about facilitating this conversation with this group of individuals, first identifying this group of individuals. Who are they? Do they have the same understanding we do? Part of it is collecting the experience of what it meant for them to go through a professional development plan and what did that look like. And then how do we present the board with models or feasible models for you to consider. So one of the things we do whenever we do something major like this is we use the guiding change principle and concept of just let's review our context and reality and what was a PDP and what did it look like, and they had to have a team, and part of that team was you had to have peers, you had to have an administrator, you had to have someone from higher education as part of your team. They had to be reviewing your professional development plan as you went through this 5-year process. The other part of that plan is what did you do with the teachers that already had the licensure? Basically, they were moved from that initial to that professional license right away, and then the option of that. So this group we sent out to the entire district just to make sure that we had the right understanding and the right people targeted of people who completed a professional development plan while they were a member of the Prescott School District. And we reviewed what the PI 34 licensure stages were in our understandings. You can see some red showing up. The red are the edits from our meeting. So we did meet with this group. Not everyone can meet, as you know. We put out a doodle poll. We do the best we can. It was scheduled for Monday. Monday we didn't have school. We really wanted to meet with them just to get the ball rolling, because part of this is, as you're talking about budget, part of it will also be, can this be rolled into the budget for them? And then just, we didn't have anyone that we knew of that was on the master educator. We confirmed that. So we reviewed the context reality. We have 8 people that have identified themselves. We have our desired results. So desired results, again, recognizing the value of that professional development. So some were recognized because they did the college credit, because they were required to. They could have went to the PDP. These people did not have the option to jump to the college credit. They had to be on the PDP. So, but we need some things that align budgetarily, reward that staff for their enhanced practice that they have carried through, create viable and reasonable options for the board to consider. And then sort of that how not to's, or that center column of, and the first one is failure to comply with state laws and policies. One thing that's different is that there is no collective bargaining anymore. So, in an advisory role with the people that were on PDPs to advise the board on potential models that they're going to develop and create based on what they know, what other data they can gather from other school districts. Again, we want it to be sustainable. We basically, we don't want anyone operating outside of the work group, but the other part is, that the favoritism towards one group versus another, the credits versus the PDP action research versus the PDP, because there's people that did PDPs that did take college courses, but they didn't take them for credit, right? So is a PDP, or is an action research something different? So these are all those things that work group has to struggle through, and that's why HR and myself are trying to guide them through that process. So that way, we can take that input team, that stakeholder voice, and design options around it. So we really walk them through this decision-making protocol that you guys have seen through TeamWorks, and really discussing the choice makers are the board. The board is who ultimately has to make this decision. We're going to work in an advisory capacity to do the legwork for the board and then come up with viable options for you to consider. And again, part of it is because we know you're into the budgeting process for next year. Sort of self-imposed timeline of when can we feasibly have this work done. And then also of these 8 people, the input team versus the design team. A group of 8 working on this isn't a terrible number, but we also know that we have people on there that are multiple head coaches, young families. So as long as their voice is at the table as part of the input team, some I can see taking that options. Others that want to get more into the trenches and really understand and help on that design, then they'll be part of that design team. So we met with them today after school. We walked through this process. talked about the different teams and what does that mean. And then Rick, if you can go to the next slide, and then sort of our wrap-up of it was, again, we're facilitating it. We have 8 staff members. We did collect some initial data. Part of the difficulty of initial data is some of this stuff is from 15 years ago, and you're trying to remember. The other part is just the way that during the PDP, the DPI had a website, QEI, Quality Educator Initiative. That's where you built everything. So trying to resurrect artifacts from 10, 15 years ago is difficult, and everyone's experience was a little bit different. So working with that group of what were their collective experiences, what was their PDP. Some people reported, a lot of work in years 1 and 2 and not so much in years 3 and 4. And other people said, no, I didn't really do a lot of work in years 1 and 2. And it was actually 3, 4, and 5 that were really, and then part of it also was, we also did a mentorship program at that time where we paired them with a peer. They did go to UW River Falls, met with people from DPI, from CSA 11, that helped them with their PDPs as well. So just understanding what that looks like, because some people started those in different districts and then came here. Like one person came here 2 years before their license expired, and they basically had to start over and do everything within 2 years. So they had a condensed timeline to get their PDP rewritten, reapproved. How much of that was self-imposed versus the university check off, the people that read through their PDPs. So that's what this group needs to understand, is where is everyone? And then how are they going to come to a consensus of what would be a reasonable, viable sort of finalization to this PDP that has not existed since 2018. So that's our initial meeting. Again, only a subset were able to be there. We shared out the slide deck with everyone, along with sort of the talking points. Always at the end of a Teamworks thing, you always, what are the talking points? Because people are going to ask you, what are you discussing? What are the things that we're going to share? Part of it is not that we want to necessarily hide behind closed doors of what we're talking about, but part of it is also when you don't have all of the context and all of the background information, it's very difficult to take something out of context. So we had that conversation as well. So that all was shared with the group of 8. We have a new doodle poll out there. The plan is to meet in early March, and then in late March, and then again in April, with the self-imposed timeline of having some viable options in front of the board in April for you to then ask questions about, give feedback, go back and retool those options, and then a potential decision by May.
Nice, okay.
That's sort of the goal that we kind of put on this work team. There's a lot of work that has to happen between now and then, though, so.
Right,
So
okay.
that's where we're at.
Any questions on here, Helen, or
I don't think so, not yet.
Vicki?
So this is to try and capture that group that got stuck in the middle, is what you're trying to figure out where?
The compensation model at the time only had
Right.
for credit.
Yeah.
So there were people that did the PDP and doubled up and did the credit. And then there were some people previous to the PDP that just stayed on the credit.
Well, and
And
then,
then people that had the PDP that never did any credits.
and I know
But they may have
that-
audited classes.
that first year when I started on the board, you guys had sat down, done a whole salary schedule, knew how we're gonna do this, how we're gonna move forward, and had some ideas on how people could move ahead without taking college credits, how they could do all of that sort of stuff, and
Yeah,
it
but
just never came
You
to
have
fruition.
the
so-
in-district credit
Yeah.
model, right?
Yeah.
And then who's going to
And it
do the
just-
legwork and put all that together? And that we kind of have that is, it's not this, it could be part of this, though,
Yeah.
as a viable option.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yes,
and I
we are
think-
looking at that.
Yeah, I think with not having that as a state requirement anymore, like needing those continuing education credits to move up, move on, all of that sort of thing. I think adding that, looking at what you've got, adding something like that in so that it does encourage our staff to want to continue to learn, to want to move forward, and are knowing that they're appreciated for doing that, that this is not an extra effort on my part just for me, but that I'm appreciated by the board, so thank you.
Tanya, anything?
Remind me, did we go with so we're doing a job study, which is kind of, it seems like a little bit of what you're doing too. Was it a LARIC group that we went with?
Yes.
Okay. And so, Mike, how is this work, kind of, Michael, how's this work working with what they're working on right now? Because I believe we probably should be getting some information back from them pretty soon, too. And so will this kind of help feed kind of some of our decision-making when it comes to salary as we get that report and stuff like that, too?
I think that will help you as a board. I don't see this group, being part of that part, or that side of the discussion. It is more of what would be a acceptable, viable option of what we were to do with this group, and then obviously if it is compensation, then to me that would then, does that align with what Alara is providing you?
Okay. Well, I mean, I appreciate, this is a group that we've needed to do some work with. I know we had a kind of a listening session with some staff members. I was just looking back at my notes. I think it was back in like December-ish, wasn't it, you guys? And this was one of the things that really came out, and teachers were, some teachers there, would fall within this group, but really just advocating for their colleagues and their peers and stuff of something that they saw as an unfairness or an injustice within that system. And so I appreciate this. I appreciate the voice that people are able to add to it. And I think like kind of where I'm at still, like until we get this job study right, it's like this will just be more information as we start to decide how are we going to right some of the imbalances that have kind of occurred for the past 10 years or 8 years within systems. So yeah, great work. Thank you for doing it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, Pat, anything?
No comments.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Really well done.
To you and Chantel, thank you. You've done just behind the scenes to get those 8 people identified, and the surveys that went out and the communication. Really appreciate also our staff being willing to come forward and participate. The good segue, though, this is what Michael just described was a subset of a historical kind of issue that we wanted to rectify and had talked about. Now we're moving into the job study. We have had multiple calls. Chantel will be meeting with them tomorrow as well. We had put out a survey to our staff, and we reminded them during the snow days off the last 2 days to see if we could boost up, and we've over 53 respondents out of 100, so that's pretty good participation. What we were asking, and also asked the board, was trying to identify who are the comparison groups. And so we kind of talked about this last month with regards to the methodology and benchmarking the salaries both for licensed and non-licensed and external. We talked a little bit about that there are 421 districts within the state. We are part of 41 districts in CISA 11, and then we're uniquely situated right on the border of Minnesota. And so I did meet with our admin team, and we kind of put forward what we thought would be kind of assumed comparison groups. And so obviously the state of Wisconsin, CISA 11, and then middle border, and we'll talk about which districts fall into the middle border, and then whether or not there should be other. We did then talk with Tracy Budworth and 8 representatives. We had 2 teachers from each building, so there were 8, and we went through and talked a little bit about some things that they wanted to see out of the job study, what the process would be, and then when those reports would come. Tracy and I then met independently, and we kind of went through, and now we have the survey as of this afternoon. So basically, I would say is that the state average, CISA 11, and the middle border are all aligned. There's consensus, and you'll see some graphs coming back. Then there also is who are neighboring districts, and obviously River Falls and Hudson are highlighted because they were most most referenced in comments, and also because they could select other or do a rank order. So I wanted to kind of just call that out with color. Other ones that were noted were St. Croix Central. A lot of it has to do with how St. Croix Central has a unique staffing model, and they have a tiered system, so that was something, and that matched up with consensus. There are some smaller districts in our arena. They were not necessarily seen as viable, more so from our staff consensus, and then obviously we don't lose a lot of staff to those districts. What did come through are just other districts. Just to let you know, Somerset and Baldwin are part of the middle border, but I put them out there because they were referenced a lot. And then Eau Claire, which is a bigger one. Then we went into the state of Minnesota. The admin team had looked at Hastings, Red Wing, and South Washington County. In addition, Stillwater did come up, and then in our staff survey, the most frequent are the top three that are highlighted. Stillwater was in fourth place, and slightly different is that they also, on comments, had identified Inver Grove Heights and Cannon Falls. People have asked who makes up the middle border, and Altoona, as you know, has joined the middle border and it replaced New Richmond. Then we did want to make sure that people understood that enrollment kind of matters because the number of students that you have presents a different scalability. What I did want to share with you is that we have enrollment from 2023 and 2024. We're trying to get full-time equivalents, so how many staff do they also have? And then what I can share with you is if you look at the final column, it's a very different scenario if you're losing students than if you're increasing, right? And the only district that has a substantive change is Altoona with a plus 100.
Wow. Yeah.
Additional districts, again, came in with Hudson, New Richmond, River Falls, and Spring Valley. Remember, New Richmond had been part of the middle border, and so you can kind of see the average decline among all these districts is about 71 students.
Rick, it's not ranked by enrollment because Prescott is the lowest enrolled school in the middle border, right? I'm calling that out.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think it was alphabetical. Yeah. Okay. Is how we listed.
Yeah.
Then we did give to the school board the opportunity to kind of weigh in on how you would rank order, just the different things that we talked about. Again, it was done independently. This is the first time you're seeing it. It gives you just an opportunity to kind of see what the administration had said, what the 8 teachers representing each of the 2 buildings, and then also the whole staff that got to vote in. You can see that there was a little bit more weighting with regards to CISA 11 and middle border. In a similar way, Elmwood, Plum City, and Spring Valley were low, and then there were some recommendations. With regards to our staff, the only difference between the school board and our staff was that the staff did highlight Wisconsin highly. In a similar way, you can see Elmwood, Plum City, and Spring Valley were not. So that's why we put a strike through on those. Then with regards to, let's see, now we're talking about Minnesota. You can see from the board right now, kind of South Washington County and Hastings were put up there, not so much for Stillwater. And then when you look at our staff, kind of falls into a same stepwise regression. We do have other names that they have put forward. Wanted to get your input or thoughts. Our goal is then to send this table forward to Alera so that they can start making sure that these districts are included in their data set, and also allow you to filter it out so that you can see representations either by those subcategories, Minnesota versus Wisconsin, and the like.
So the table that you put forward is that first table that we looked at the beginning, right? Yeah. Okay.
So this kind of summarizes everything, but I wanted to also share the picture of the results.
I guess, are you looking for comments or?
Yeah, anything,
Okay.
anything glaring omission or?
Helen,
And you'll
anything?
also have opportunities to give feedback as the reports come in too.
Yep. Helen, any?
I'm looking at it now, no, nothing. I mean, we kind of know, we're looking at River Falls, we're looking at like the schools around us. Yeah, nothing.
Vicki?
Yeah.
No, I was curious to see how the board's responses lined up with the staff responses and that sort of thing in admin, and yeah, it looks as though we're all in agreement as to where we really need to concentrate, so.
Great. Tanya?
No, this looks great. You have that other thing mentioned on here, Somerset, Baldwin, and Eau Claire, and I assume, right, Somerset and Baldwin are part of Middle Board, and that's why they're not highlighted. Yep, okay. Yeah, I think it looks great. I like the variety of some of the school districts within our conference, all of them really, and also the school districts that our staff often leave to too, which is not in our conference, so yeah.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Pat?
No other comments. It'll be interesting to see if we get some more data on the full-time employees per district. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, and this lines up with kind of what I think we're all on the same page here. And the staff, they have a lot of input on this, and that's good. I think that, and at least the board somewhat pretty much lines up with what the staff was kind of looking for as well. So, yeah, this is good information, Rick. So I don't think
That's awesome.
we're not looking to change anything, or we're good to go.
All right.
All right, so we are moving on to item D, pupil count update.
Nope, that was the one we moved forward. So
Wait,
now we're
wait,
going
wait.
to go to E.
Yep.
Huh? Yep, for kindergarten. So I did the pupil count with the,
You got it written wrong.
D and B.
yeah, I do make mistakes.
All right, so we're going to E. I was wondering, so we're going to the 4K agreements with community providers.
So I just wanted to thank our 3 community providers. February 7th, Sarah Dusick, our elementary principal, also oversees and supervises kind of the 4K program. Wanted to thank her. We have 2 different types of agreements. We have the original articles that were part of the contract, and then we have a memorandum of understanding that every 3 years it updates. The difficulty is no one had ever gone back to the articles, and so we presented those, and there were things in there that weren't happening. It's kind of like policies, right? You kind of migrate away from them. And so we presented them with a document we went through very similar to what you do with a policy. Is there anything on there that you don't currently do? We talked a little bit about on an annual basis, there was a rubric that was being used to evaluate the program, but that hasn't occurred because they meet on Sarah, do you guys meet weekly or is it?
No, it's like once a month.
Once a month. So they meet on once a month and they give feedback back and forth. We talk about curriculum, we do observations. So we are recommending that article would be removed. There was something specific about funding, but that funding really was addressed in the MOU, and so we've asked to strike that out. I was able to get those edits out to all 3 of our community providers. We have emails that came back to confirm that all 3 are now agreeing based on the edits that we'll share with you, is that the articles that we would ask to kind of strike and become the platform are in alignment with what our meeting said. So what we said matched our edits. And then in all fairness, I just wanted to make sure is that during these times, given that we've been in the low end with regards to per pupil funding, we have not adjusted the rate over the last 3 years, and we are going to go back just to check with regards to the previous MOUs. A lot of that had to do with the freezing, that we weren't getting increases in per pupil, and so we were unable to pass that on. They are going to be asking and would like us to come back with a proposal, Sarah and myself, to you with regards to maybe some considerations on that. And we wanted to be able to just make you aware that we're supportive of the partnership that we have. Some of them do have some contractual agreements, and so we do want to try to have something coming back to March or April latest, so that they obviously can plan for their future next year as well. So we'll be following up with you. You'll have access to that agreement so that you, in March, could at least approve the articles, and then we would talk about compensation for that program.
Anything, Tanya?
No, sounds good.
Pat?
No questions.
Any questions on here?
No questions.
All right, thanks, Rick. We'll move on. Item 8 is recognition of visitors. Anybody care to be recognized at this time? I'm looking at the one person. All right, thank you. We'll move on to item 9. So the board will consider a motion to convene in closed session under exemption 1985-1C, which we'll discuss an update on employee 1 and then 2 other employees, and then 1E to discuss vendor contract 1 and vendor contract 2. So we will take a motion in a second, and then I guess a roll call.
I move to convene in closed session at, you guys okay with 8:20?
Sure.
8:20 in room, help me out,
117.
117. That's right there.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's just go down the line. Pat?
Yes, aye.
Tanya?
Aye.
Vicky?
Aye.
Helen?
Aye.
I am an aye as well. We will convene in closed session at 8:20 PM. Thank you.